What's going on, Tamers? East, aka the tallest Mamemon here, and the EX06 Infernal Ascension is finally released for the Japanese version of the game. And after some playtesting yesterday, I gotta say, Mastemon and the 7th grade Demon Lords are cooking. But before diving into that set, like any good historian, I want to go back and do one last wrap up for the BT16 set as a whole. I think that some of the design choices for the cards in the BT16 Beginning Observer set were a little bit risky, but honestly, they turned out to be a great success. And to find out why, let's take a look at the top performing decks, a couple of key takeaways, and a closer look at the age and meta for this set as a whole. So the BT16 set can actually be split up into two separate time periods. The first one is what I would call the Dark Ages. It's the first week and a half, 2 weeks, where the Apocalypse and Anubismon decks hadn't been restricted yet. They had been announced, but the restrictions hadn't gone into effect. Honestly, we're not going to talk about that time period in this video very much. The second era, however, is what I would call the golden era of Digimon, and that is the time period after the restricted list went into effect to the end of the set. This time period saw lots of deck flourishing without the oppressive power of Anubismon and Apocalypse in the game. So again, like I said before, if you came to this video looking for info on that Dark Age, unfortunately, I'm not going to cover that. I was on holiday break. I wasn't even in Japan. I was visiting my family in the US. And honestly, the Apocalypse Nubimon meta kind of boo-boo. But let's move on to the actual meat and potatoes, which is the golden era, and so we've got a bunch of information from this time period. You can take a look at the top 10 decks by results here on the left side here with Magnamon Armor, Imperial Dramon, Rapid Armor, Numemon, and Tyrant Kabuterimon rounding out the top half of that list. It's hard to say if I would even separate these decks. I kind of put them all in their own class. I think they are all pretty strong in their own right in different ways. Protagonist power is pretty strong in Japan, and when you have decks like representing Vmon and Imperial Dramon running around, Numemon, while I think is a very strong deck, one of the strongest decks in the game right now, the results don't exactly show that. One other thing that I want to point out about results here is that during this time period, there were two types of events going on. The first one was the regular battles or regular tamer battles, the weekly locals that were happening. Those are what these event results show. There was a second class of event, however, called Tamer Battle EX, where I believe it was either monocolored decks or all green decks. But if you take a look at some of the Japanese websites out there, you'll see green decks exploding through numbers alone, but some of those event websites group both the regular locals and the Tamer Battle EXs together. And so keep in mind that these results will probably differ for some of the Japanese websites you see because I filtered out all of those other Tamer Battle EX events. Some of the strongest decks from the set include the likes of Tyrant Kabuterimon as well as Magnamon X Antibody. Both of these cards sport a very powerful cannot be affected by effects effect. Tyrant Kabuterimon being only Digimon effects, and Magnamon X Antibody being any effect as long as a security is removed during the course of a turn. And because of this class of effects that popped up in the game, it definitely became a might makes right meta, where you could have all of the effects in the world, but honestly, at the end of the day, your DP is what mattered most. And because Tyrant Kabuterimon and Magnamon X Antibody could buff themselves, they could easily become, 18 to 20,000 DP Digimon on your opponent's turn. So you saw cards that have the Alliance effect, as well as cards that buff DP, become very, very important. The next big takeaway that I want to talk about is going to be Ukomon from this set. While we did get the promo Ukomon from the Digimon O2 movie, and it was great in some respects for aggro decks, this BT16 Ukomon became one of the best searchers in the game overnight. Allowing you to search cards anytime one of your Digimon is moved from the raising area to the battle area is incredible, especially when you can get that effect turn after turn. And even though the developers tried to offset the strength of this card by giving it a 1-cost Digivolve from any color, that wasn't enough. It actually made it one of the best turn 1 plays in the game, where you can give your opponent 1 to start with, evolve into this guy, and then the following turn search cards. However, Asian players are clever, and one of the things that I enjoyed most about this set is the evolution of the meta after it first developed. And so we saw cards like Digimon Kaiser or Digimon Emperor in English, which you see to the right here, as well as decks like Mirage Galgamon gain in popularity. Digimon Emperor basically let you tax your opponent for moving a level 3 from the raising area to the battle area, meant that Ukomon became an instant memory minus whenever they moved him out, and then Mirage Galgamon being able to steal memory when your opponent searches cards from an effect. When Ukomon came out with Mirage Galgamon on the field, your opponent immediately lost lots of memory whenever they did that search. The next big takeaway that I want to talk about is going to be the armor cards. Now, in this set initially released, we saw two style of armor decks pop up, that being Magnamon Armor and Rapidmon Armor, both based off of the secret rares for this set. Rapidmon supported great removal and lots of DP minus effects, as well as a blanket DP minus effects and a way to gain memory back off of those, and great offense in the use of the Lopmon card from the starter deck Double Typhoon by giving your Digimon Alliance. Magnamon, on the other hand, was an incredibly defensive deck, being able to give you 18,000 DP Digimon that's unaffected by effects until the end of your opponent's turn. However, over time, players learned that you could utilize some of the cards in the Yellow Vaccine engine to actually put both of these styles of decks together. We first saw this at the Japanese Nationals, where a great swath of players were actually running a Yellow Vaccine armor deck, where players could use a level 3 Patamon card to digivolve into one of the Rapidmon Armor Digimon, and then after that go into either the Rapidmon X, one of the level 5 Angel cards that are aces, and then into the Magnamon X antibody on the top end. With free or cheap evolve costs off of cards like the Patamon, the Emissary of Hope option card, as well as the Awakening of the Gold Knight option card, this deck was incredibly resource valuable. And while Yellow Vaccine Armor doesn't include, the likes of cards like Lopmon for extra attack power, I still feel like it combines most of the best parts of both of those decks into one. And so all that brings us to the final events list for the BT16 Beginning Observer set you see here. And while you do see Magnamon X Antibody and Imperial Dramon here separated from the pack, I think there's a great case to be made that you could probably group these first two bands together in terms of strength. And so once you move past these first two rows, I think that the rest of this list pretty much makes sense, with Finralugamon a cut above the rest with some of the support it received from this set, and then you have pretty much everything else. One thing I thought would have been interesting if we could see this set play out a little bit longer was how well Mirage Yaogamon did. I feel like the popularity of this deck really exploded during the last few weeks of the set, and not so much in the very beginning. Once people found out this is a good counter to Ukomon, I think it rose in popularity like I mentioned before, and if we had a bit more time, I wonder if it would stay here, go up, or go down. And so with that, we're going to bring the BT16 Beginning Observer set to a close. Let me know what decks you guys had fun playing with in the set, or if you live in the West, what decks you're looking forward to when the set releases over there. The way this set shaped up made it one of the funnest time periods for me to play the game, and I hope that when you folks in the West get your hands on it, you have just as much fun as I did. And so with that said, I've got a video to edit and a bunch of EX6 decks to try out. I'm gonna get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.